making the country the most vibrant investment destination in Africa. Very well, that's some good news right there. Uhuru, what do you think?
Well, it's very interesting. I like the fact that we finally begin to talk about investment in a way that has to do with growing our own capacity.
Sure.
I find it particularly interesting that it's a Sri Lankan company. I look forward to the day when it's a Kenyan company opening a factory in Sri Lanka.
It's an FDI.
Yeah.
All right, but now we'll be talking about more local talent, and of course, with regard to what the Azimio presidential candidate Raila Odinga said regarding empowering of the Juakali sector, of course, recognizing them, registering them, and formalizing their businesses. Right. But first off, we want to just listen to what he had to say about this. Azimio la Umoja One Kenya presidential aspirant Raila Odinga has pledged to roll out what he calls recognition of prior learning policy to shed the skilled workforce in the informal sector from middlemen. Murimi Mwangi reports on details of Raila's agenda that appears to be a strategic move to counter bottom-up policy. Let's listen in.
When Deputy President William Ruto took a ride on a wheelbarrow on the 29th of September 2020,
UDA, kazi.
Save for the few allies aware of the deeper strategy culminating to the unveiling of the United Democratic Alliance UDA several months later, with the symbol of a wheelbarrow as the DP's political wagon in the 2022 State House race, under what he calls the bottom-up economic model. And with just 90 days to the August 9th polls, his main rival, former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, has unveiled his master plan for the informal sector, after what he said were months of a fact-finding mission among members of the Juakali sector.
I want to push for the adoption and implementation of the recognition of prior learning policy in Kenya, RPL. I want to repeat, recognition of prior learning policy in Kenya, RPL.
According to Odinga, his push for recognition of prior learning policy is in response to the plight of millions of skilled Kenyans with no papers, flocking industrial area in search of jobs. Among these, Odinga says, are tile fillers, unable to directly secure jobs which are instead taken up by middlemen with papers but no skills. The brokers, Odinga says, take the lion's share of the payouts and in turn hire the jobless tile fillers to do the actual work for peanuts.
Wengi wao wana ujuzi zaidi kuliko wale ambayo wanabeba makaratasi. Ati wao ni mechanic, au ni plumbers, au ni welders na kadhalika. Lakini kwa sababu hawana certificates, wanabaguliwa, nyonywa na wale waajiri.
An exploitative trend, Odinga says, has also become rather common even in the furniture making sector.
Tumesema tunataka kumaliza haya, kuleta ile kitu tunaitwa the RPL, ambaye itatambua ujuzi wa mtu na kumpatia yeye shahada ambayo anaweza kutumia kikazi, ili ionekane ya kwamba yeye na ujuzi yake inatambulika.
Odinga said his initiative would restore hope for skilled but disadvantaged youth and fix the raging crisis of unemployment.
Mpango kama yale ambayo tumeona katika nchi zingine, kama nchi ya Malaysia, nchi ya Singapore, nchi ya Korea Kusini, hata India, wametambulika na wamechangia vilivyo kwa ujenzi ya uchumi ya nchi hizo zote.
Odinga's new game plan is seen within political circles as a counter-strategy to Ruto's bottom-up model, through which the deputy president has been endearing himself to the lower cadres of society, in a debate previously criticized as an attempt at igniting class wars between the haves and the have-nots. Odinga gave the solo briefing through a video link from Karen, in a departure from his tradition of press conferences in what could be seen as an attempt to also block likely questions. Murimi Mwangi, KTN News.
All right, there you have it. The die is cast, and of course, as we term it right there, this is meant to sort of counter Deputy President's bottom-up economics. We want to just sift through and look into what is the truth and what is false right here. Uhuru Ndoho joins me. He's a regular face on the Biz Chat Weekly on Friday. And of course, Odhiambo Ramogi is also joining us virtually. Gentlemen, good to see you. Although I had engaged Uhuru earlier on a bit, just want to understand, Uhuru, what did the former Prime Minister miss on this agenda?
It's very interesting that he does this. It's anything that helps us, the Juakali sector is a good thing. I'd like just to clarify a couple of things. I'm not sure because I don't want to comment too much because I also don't know the detail of the policy. Normally, recognition of prior learning is used in most countries as a way of giving some recognition for people who've had, what you call life experience. They've done the job, but they've done the papers.
And not necessarily earning a certificate for it.
No, and basically what they do, they use, and that's what it's called a recognition of prior learning. They recognize your work experience in life, but they use that as giving you some credit towards getting certification.
Sure.
So like for Polytechnic, they say, for example, they might say minimum entry is O levels, or, standard 7. And you may not have that, but you've had 10 years of being a carpenter. So they can say that 10 years works like a pre-qualification for you to enter into a Polytechnic or university or more technical college to do that. So to that extent, I think what I need to be clear is that if it's a way of saying, we recognize what you've done up to now, but this now gives you access to now achieve those certifications. It's important because one of the most important things that our skill set must also be competence-based. It must be based on training and sequential training towards getting a recognition by way of a certificate.
Sure.
Now, of course, what he's saying also is that he's trying to cut or short-circuit the situation where the ones with diplomas get the job and then give it to these other guys because they clearly couldn't be able to secure those jobs. I think that's what he's addressing. But beyond that, it's a good move towards empowering our workers. It would be better, I think, if it was also escorted by an economic credit, a credit scheme, for example. For example, come on, Juakali, yes, we give you prior learning. We give you credit first to go back to school. Get your certification, your diplomas. But on top of that, we will also give you credit, what do you call it?
A guarantee scheme.
A loan scheme, yes.
Yeah, but there's one in place. Though it's not active.
Now it's a way of making an integrated approach.
Okay.
Because you say there's so many Juakalis. First tell them, now we're going to give access to TVET for you. It could even be in classes. But we'll say if you have more than 10 years, we'll give you a credit. Let's say if you need 100 points of credit to enter a TVET, we'll give you 50 or 70. So that you don't have to go and look and even cheat, like how some politicians are getting certificates. I've never gone to university. We'll say, okay, we can give you that prior learning, but it's part of value adding you as labor in this country.
Exactly.
It's not a way of saying it's an end in itself, but it's a way of saying, you can at least start, and you can now build to get your certificates.
Okay. And
when you finish your certificates, we'll give you a small loan.
And brokers are under fire in this country. Brokers are being eliminated from the coffee sector, everywhere. And the former Prime Minister also says that they're going to weigh in heavy on this one. William, if you can hear us, give us some countries who we can benchmark from so that we can effectively enact and implement this to the benefit of those people being targeted with this program. William. William? All right, there you go. Okay, go ahead, William. There you go. All right, he seems to be getting problems. But then I'll pose the same question to you, Uhuru. Which countries can we benchmark from?
You can benchmark, as I said, Malaysia, Singapore, all of those. But you will learn a lot also from some of the Western, because this is also one of the things that came from Western democracies, Australia, the US. And what they did basically, they said the people who had that so much experience, and they're actually economic contributors to the economy. And they said that it should not be that because you've not gone through the formal education, you should be denied opportunity to upskill from where you are. And because of that, then they created opportunity for for people to get that skilling, even though they didn't have prior education. But these also in systems where did exactly what I've said. They not just upskill their labor, but they also give them an opportunity, a vehicle, financially to grow.
Yeah, because that formalization enables all of these things to spur. The value chain is big because we're talking about financial sector, talking about the MFPs are now going to have access to clients, and of course these people are going to have access to credit. We're talking about insurance of their wares, and of course their workman compensations and all of these things, because majority of these people do not have those sort of welfare programs. And I like the way the former Prime Minister was putting it. Kimani anakunywa maziwa ndio he goes to paint. All those small facets that make their working conditions a little more bearable. William, I don't know if we have you back, but I'm going to ask you still the same question about countries we can benchmark from, and throw in a spanner in the works. This is not a new narrative. We are not hearing for the first time. What should we do differently, William?
Well, thank you. I hope you can hear me now. I'm told now my sound is much better.
Sure.
Oh, awesome. No, I had started with explaining that I admire the German system because they have recognition of prior learning, and they also have CBC. So it's like we are benchmarking a lot from them. What happens is whatever you learn through apprenticeship or from practice, you can actually be certified for it, and you don't have to again go through the processes. I agree with Wohoro on several fronts. I differ on several. First of all, let me start with the difference. The point of departure for me would be that we should not certify them, and that this should only form part of the learning. I think I differ. We should certify them even without an exam, because what we have right now is that there is recognition, yes, but it is given in part of learning, what Wohoro is describing. What we want is that if you have 5 years experience as a welder, you need to get a certificate from NITA telling us that in fact you are a welder, because this certificate enables you to start a welding company. You remember that the registrar of companies will want, by the time you're going to them, they want to ensure that at least you have the qualifications as a director of this company. It will also ensure that your welfare is taken care of. It will ensure that you have credit. And so the certificate is the big problem. What we have right now is there is a policy in place that was put in place after the enactment of the Kenya National Qualifications Authority, but we do not have programs and schemes, the kind that Wohoro is describing, that would support these people. So, and I think that is what the Prime Minister is alluding to, that we need to move from just policy to implementation of the same through schemes, through programs that assist the Juakali sector. And so for me, it's a very good approach. It will ensure that the Juakali industry is well taken care of. There is credit, there is safety, there is registration, there is general economic uplifting of this sector.
Good submissions right there. Wohoro has a rebuttal. Wohoro, go ahead.
I don't know if we could disagree so much as saying, as describing how traditionally RPLs have worked in most of these other jurisdictions. And it's true that you can give them prior recognition. The underlying issue here, Branji, is that even in those jurisdictions, they have a national standards board that says if you're going to be a carpenter, this is how you learn to do carpentry. So it's not enough to say that you've done 10 years of being a carpenter. You could have 10 years of doing bad carpentry. Look at a lot of our houses. So there are very few houses in Kenya where you can look at the wall and it's actually straight. Now that is standards based. Now that says for you to be layered.
Allow me to chip in. Specialization.
Yes,
because
that's true.
And he's giving an example of Germany. I am a fan of German cars. And I look at some of the documentaries that I used to in the process of making Mercedes and VWs and all these BMWs and everything. And I just love the way they are specific. One person does one thing and that's it. And it helps to improve the quality. Now we are going into a globalization where there's a global standard that needs to be put in place. Does this also speak to the skill set that we put out in the campuses?
Absolutely. In fact, that's what I'm saying, exactly what I'm saying. It's a standards-driven ethos. It's a standards-driven methodology that says, yes, we recognize what you've done. You're not going to punish you. I mean, you're going to give certifications. You can still start your business.
True.
But it should be the start of a journey for upskilling from where you are. Because now, next time you build, you lay, what do you call them? Stones for building a house.
Yes.
The national standards, and you have those building standards, means you've been certified someone to say that you actually follow the protocols for building a straight wall. There are very few Kenyans home which have a straight wall. And I think this could be a good way of starting that process. But I think that's what I'm saying. It doesn't have to be an either or. Yeah, it can be both.
Okay, great. I'm going to pick William on this next topic, which we have very little time to handle. William, there's a shocking revelation, of course, that we import up to goods worth 2 trillion Kenya shillings and export a paltry 700 billion worth of goods. William, where are we missing it? Where's the rain beating us? Are we not producing enough? And what do we need to do to improve this?
I think there are many gaps here, and it's a very sad scenario because this is contributing to the weak currency we are having currently. And one of the reasons, one is that we are importing a lot of foodstuff. We have increased, the balance of payment with Tanzania is now in favor of Tanzania. Most of the things we're importing from Tanzania are agricultural products that can actually be produced locally. Tanzania has gone ahead and passed South Africa as one of our chief importers, or rather, the people who are bringing goods inwards. For me, the fact that we are not really investing in agriculture so that we can produce food locally is causing us a big problem. And I think we need to refocus our energies into agriculture. The new government must focus into agriculture if we are to salvage this economy. But the other thing also is that we are importing some of the things we don't need. Like when we give a contract to the Chinese, they come even plus their contractors, plus their engineers, plus their materials. Some of those things we can actually get locally, like importing cement would be unreasonable. There's also a lot of counterfeit goods that destroy the local production. In fact, that they don't enter into the records as imports, but they also destroy the local production so that then now what would enter in records as exports is no longer there because of counterfeit products. And so I think we need to have a wholesome approach to this that includes managing the counterfeit products that are coming in, that includes investing in agriculture aggressively and investing in manufacturing. I saw that the president launched the Sri Lankan business in Athi River, and I think that's a good place to start, but I don't think it's enough.
You rightly mentioned Tanzania, and we are always banning Tanzanian maize and all these things, and I like the way you weighed in heavy on agriculture. Wahoro, the economic survey didn't look good on agriculture. We had a contraction. William rightly puts it that we need to improve the agricultural output of this country. Of course, there's a lot of raw material that will come from agriculture that would empower our manufacturing. But then we are seeing these bans coming in also often. Maize ban, I don't know, chicken mash ban, animal feed ban from Uganda and Tanzania and all these things. Can't we get these things locally? And the question I'm going to ask you now is, can protectionist policies really help us with this one?
Every industrialized country started as a protected state, and and to a large extent they are still protected. The difference is not so much the protection; it's whether you've built the competence internally to compete on an even playing field. And that building of competence internally also means there's some structural things in the country that work against us. One we never speak about is most of our importation is also, I hate to use the word, is also cartel driven. Okay. Right? So that if you want to import rice, sugar, what have you, part of what we're calling protectionist is wenyeji have organized themselves to make
and we're always reporting about them here.
Yes. Yeah. So there's also those structural things that when you look at these numbers, we should always ask ourselves, what is it internally, structurally, quite apart from competition, that's making this harder? And some of these things are making them harder for ourselves. And one of them, I think, critically, that most of these things belong to someone. They belong to some cartel or the other.
Amazing. Your favorite, as we close, your favorite business news of the week. 30 seconds, and why?
Is the growth of Kenyan multinationals. But our banks are becoming
The
powerhouses.
African, yeah.
They're becoming an African success story, and I think we'll celebrate that because it clearly says with Equity now going into DRC and basically changing the landscape.